From 1940, Germany relied primarily on twin-engine night fighters. These aircraft were equipped with radar sets and operated under strict ground control. Their operations were coordinated by the famous Kammhuber line, a layered radar and searchlight defense system stretching across Western Europe. Each sector of the Kammhuber line used ground radar to detect incoming bombers. Controllers would then guide night fighters toward the target using radio instructions while searchlights attempted to illuminate the enemy aircraft. Once close enough, the night fighters' onboard radar allowed the crew to locate and intercept the bomber in the darkness. In theory, this system was highly effective. In practice, it struggled when confronted by the massive bomber streams developed by the Royal Air Force. Instead of small groups of bombers entering airspace gradually, the Royal Air Force concentrated hundreds of aircraft into narrow corridors. These bomber streams overwhelmed individual defense sectors and allowed most of the attackers to slip through. Compounding the problem, the Royal Air Force introduced electronic countermeasures such as the window, clouds of metallic foil dropped from bombers to confuse radar. When window first appeared during the bombing of Hamburg in July of 1943, it severely disrupted German radar tracking. The Luftwaffe suddenly found that its carefully constructed night defense system could be blinded. It was during this crisis that an unconventional idea gained traction, proposed by Major Hans-Joachim Hermann, a former bomber ace. If you enjoyed this video, don't just watch history, engage with it. Check out my World War II word search books on Amazon. Each volume focuses on a specific battle, tank, unit, or commander. This one covers the Panzerkampfwagen 8 Maus. Train your knowledge and stay sharp. You will find all my books in the description below. Instead of relying exclusively on radar-guided twin-engine night fighters, why not send large numbers of single-engine day fighters into the night sky? These aircraft would use visual cues rather than radar. Searchlights illuminating bombers and the silhouettes of aircraft against the burning city below could reveal the attackers. This concept was simple but risky. Day fighters were not designed for night operations. Their cockpits lacked specialized instruments, and their pilots were rarely trained for flying in darkness. Despite these risks, the idea offered an immediate advantage: speed and numbers. Single-engine fighters were more agile than the heavier night fighters and were available in large quantities. This daring tactic became known as the Wilde Sau or the Wild Boar. The Wilde Sau concept relied on controlled chaos. Instead of tightly directed radar interceptions, large groups of fighters were released over the target area once bombers arrived. Searchlights would attempt to illuminate the bombers, creating bright cones of light in the sky. Anti-aircraft artillery fired continuously, and the flames from burning buildings cast an eerie glow over the city. Within this illuminated battlefield, the single-engine fighters hunted. Pilots attacked visually, often diving into bomber formations illuminated by the searchlights or silhouetted against fires. The tactic demanded exceptional flying skills. The night sky over a bombed city was filled with hazards: flak bursts, smoke columns, debris, and other aircraft. Yet the approach showed surprising results. In several raids during late 1943, Wilde Sau units claimed significant numbers of bomber kills. One of the pioneers of the tactic was Klaus Breitschneider, a skilled fighter pilot who became one of the early practitioners of night fighting in single-engine aircraft. His experience and successes helped demonstrate that the concept was viable. As the Luftwaffe expanded Wilde Sau operations, new fighter units were formed specifically for night combat using single-engine machines. The Jagdgeschwader, or the Fighter Wing 300, was established in July of 1943 as the first operational unit dedicated to Wilde Sau tactics. Initially equipped with the Messerschmitt Bf-109, the wing later transitioned increasingly to the powerful Focke-Wulf Fw 190. The wing's mission was straightforward: intercept Allied bombers at night over German territory. However, executing this mission demanded a different mindset from traditional night fighter crews. Wilde Sau pilots operated alone in their cockpits without a radar operator to assist them. Their only tools were eyesight, instrument discipline, and instinct. Training emphasized night navigation and the ability to spot bombers in the darkness. Pilots practiced flying in low visibility and coordinating with searchlight units. Despite the danger, the wing produced several successful night fighter aces. Over the time, Jagdgeschwader 300 evolved from an experimental formation into a significant component of Germany's nighttime air defense. Among the aircraft used in Wilde Sau operations, the Focke-Wulf Fw 190 proved particularly well suited. It combined powerful armament, high speed, and exceptional maneuverability. Its heavy armament, typically including 20mm cannons, made it extremely dangerous to bomber aircraft. A short burst of cannon fire could tear apart a heavy bomber structure. The Focke-Wulf A5 formed the basis of several specialized conversions, including the R11 equipment package designed for night operations. It incorporated several modifications intended to improve its performance in darkness. These included night flying instruments, flame dampers to reduce engine exhaust, and radar installation. The most distinctive feature of the aircraft was its radar antenna array. The installation included 3 dipole antenna elements mounted vertically around the cockpit area. These were positioned fore and aft of the cockpit, above and below the wings. The antenna arrays gave the aircraft a unique and somewhat fragile appearance. Though visually unusual, the system allowed the fighter to detect bombers even without visual contact. At the heart of this capability was the Fug-217 Neptune radar. The Neptune represented one of the later generations of German airborne interception radar developed during the war. Its design allowed installation in both twin-engine night fighters and single-engine aircraft. The system worked by emitting radio waves that bounced off nearby aircraft. Reflected signals returned to the radar receiver, allowing the pilot to estimate the distance and direction of the target. In practice, the radar displayed these signals on a small screen inside the cockpit. Bright blips represented potential targets. Because the Focke-Wulf lacked a second crew member, interpreting these signals placed additional workload on the pilot. Flying the aircraft, navigating in darkness, and operating the radar simultaneously demanded intense concentration. Nevertheless, the Neptune system provided an enormous advantage over purely visual hunting. Even in complete darkness or heavy cloud cover, the radar could guide the pilot toward a bomber formation. The radar-equipped Focke-Wulf variants were introduced relatively late in the war, and their numbers remained limited. Despite this, they represented a significant step in the evolution of German night fighter tactics. Radar allowed Wilde Sau pilots to operate even when fires and searchlights were absent. Instead of relying on illuminated skies, they could detect bombers electronically. However, the system was far from perfect. The antenna arrays created additional drag, reducing the fighter's speed. They were also vulnerable to damage during combat or from flak bursts. Moreover, the workload placed on a single pilot remained immense. Many pilots preferred the traditional visual tactics of Wilde Sau when conditions allowed. Even so, the Neptune radar symbolized the Luftwaffe's attempt to adapt to an increasingly sophisticated air war. Before we continue, this channel exists because it stays independent. If you believe serious military history should stay that way, consider channel membership. Link below. Night fighting over Germany was among the most dangerous forms of aerial combat during the war. Fighter pilots had to avoid not only enemy bombers, but also their own defenses. German flak batteries sometimes fired indiscriminately into bomber formations, and Wilde Sau pilots occasionally flew directly through these barrages. Collisions were another constant danger. With dozens of fighters and hundreds of bombers maneuvering in darkness, mid-air accidents occurred frequently. Despite these hazards, Wilde Sau pilots pressed their attacks aggressively. Although Wilde Sau tactics initially produced impressive results, their effectiveness declined as the war progressed. Several factors contributed to this decline. First, Allied bombing tactics continued to evolve. Bomber streams became more sophisticated, and electronic countermeasures improved. Second, the Luftwaffe faced increasing shortages of experienced pilots and fuel. Training new pilots for complex night operations became difficult as resources dwindled. By 1944, the Luftwaffe was fighting a defensive war on multiple fronts, and strategic bombing campaign intensified dramatically. Despite the eventual defeat, the Jagdgeschwader 300 left a notable legacy in the history of aerial warfare. The unit demonstrated that single-engine fighters could operate effectively at night, a concept that had previously been considered impractical. Its pilots developed new techniques for visual interception and navigation in darkness. These experiences influenced later developments in radar-equipped fighters and all-weather interceptors. The Wilde Sau tactic stands as one of the most unusual defensive innovations of World War II. Born out of desperation, it transformed ordinary day fighters into night hunters. Aircraft such as the Focke-Wulf R11, equipped with the Neptune radar, represented the Luftwaffe's attempt to merge speed, agility, and electronic detection into a single-engine night fighter. Although the tactic could not ultimately hold the Allied bombing offensive, it demonstrated remarkable ingenuity under pressure. In the dark skies over wartime Germany, the Wilde Sau pilots fought a desperate and dangerous battle, one that remains a fascinating chapter in the history of aerial warfare. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you want to support my channel, check out the PayPal donation link in the description or consider becoming a member. To make sure you don't miss my future work, subscribe to my channel and press the bell notification button. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.